So there's a lot of things around developing people and teams, right? And what's the best way for managers to practice empathy and accountability?
Sure. So when I think about accountability, I feel like, it's about ownership. It's about somebody who can explain what is going on, right? It's somebody about who can also kind of look around the corners,
Great.
and they can be an early warning system, right? All of those things have to come in when you're accountable for something.
Yes.
Right. And in order to kind of create this culture of accountability, you have to get a few things right. Right. Some people say it's just about having the right type of, compensation structure, incentives, and that's all you need to do. And then people will, deliver what you need. But if that were true, if you think about sports teams that hire the most expensive players would be winning all the championships. But that's not what actually happens, right?
True.
And so, I talk about 5 things that you have to get right when it comes to creating culture of accountability. The first one is you need intention clarity.
Yes.
So you need to be able to kind of communicate and articulate and sometimes co-create the intention exactly where you're trying to get to.
Correct.
The second one is you need role clarity, right? You got to make sure you have the right people in the right seats doing the right things. So being able to assess, is there a good fit between the person and the role is really important. The third thing is you need process clarity. Right? Sometimes you might have people with the best intentions, but if the process is unclear, they're going to end up spinning their wheels, right? The fourth piece is about creating a feedback-rich culture.
Correct.
Right? The only way we can grow is if we can get regular feedback on what are we doing well and where could we get better, right? So for companies to kind of master that is going to be really crucial. And the fifth piece I say is about communication norms.
Correct.
So much of what we do is done through our oral and written communication, whether it be, through email, text, whatever, right?
Good.
And being able to learn how to make clear requests and clear agreements is a key to having accountability. When these 5 things come together, you will have a culture of accountability. I don't necessarily see empathy and accountability as being mutually exclusive.
Correct.
Right? I think they kind of go hand in hand. For you to create accountability, you have to be empathetic.
Correct.
Right? Some people define empathy as being able to walk in somebody else's shoes.
Correct.
Right? Another definition that I've heard is of compassion, which is empathy combined with action.
Correct.
Right? Empathy might just be, imagine there's, they talk about this tale from the Buddha where he says, there was somebody in the Himalayas and they were being crushed by a rock. Mm-hmm. Now somebody walks by and they say, oh my God, I can imagine how painful it must be to be crushed by a rock. And his point is now you have 2 people crushed by a rock. What you in fact need is compassion, when you say, hey, this person is crushed by a rock. Let me move the rock out of the way so that we can free up that person. Okay. Right? So when you bring in compassion and you really relate to the people at a deep level and understand what is going on for them, you have to recognize that people want to be successful. People want to give their best, right? They want to have the greatest impact. They don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to do a mediocre job. No. Right? Everybody wants to do their best. And so being able to kind of remove the obstacles, right? Remove the rocks that are holding them in place and freeing them on to do better work, I think is the key. So when you bring in your intention to have empathy and compassion, and you work on these 5 things that I mentioned, intention clarity, role clarity, process clarity, feedback-rich culture, and communication norms, you can definitely create a great culture of accountability, which will really kind of catapult your company's results.
I mean, and what you said is absolutely right. You get this combination of all these 5 things, and then, and accountability doesn't function without empathy at the foundation. But there are some people who are overdoing on some of them. Either they're overly keeping people accountable, and then there is this empathy is lacking. And there are some people who are always out there trying to showcase empathy, and then they're not able to get the execution component, and they're all, struggling. So what would you suggest in such a case, Shri?
Absolutely. Fantastic point. And what you've described is the core struggle that a lot of people are grappling with, right? Because if you think about one axis, right? One end of the axis is all about relationship. And the other one is all about task, right? So you have some people who are task oriented, who are all about, tell me what the project deliverables are, what the outcomes are, let's get things done. That's what I'm focused on. And then you have some people who are very much focused on the relationship side, who are focused on how does this person feel? What is the morale like? So that task versus relationship is an interesting dimension. Great. And if people can find that sweet spot where they can do both, that requires relational agility if you think about it, right? Being able to focus on the task and on the person is the key.
Correct.
Right? You have a lot of leaders who have produced tremendous results in their careers, but there is a lot of collateral damage.
Correct.
There's huge body count as they've kind of gone on to do what they wanted to do, right?
Correct.
Which doesn't scale.
Correct.
And they begin to kind of hit those, those ceilings, and they realize that unless they can fix their relational skills,
correct,
they're not going to be very successful.
correct,
Or they're doing it in a way that is burning out their people.
correct,
And so when you have people who are overweighted on the task side, they have to learn how to kind of balance it out on the relationship side. And then when you have people who are overly focused on the relationship side, you find that their results are suffering and they have to learn how to get tasks done. And that is the core balance that, that they have to find. And a lot of the coaching that I do is around that stuff, right? So many business owners and CEOs that I work with have accomplished great things. They've built great companies, but they've been more focused on the task.
correct.
And one of the things that I help them understand is that your number one job is to take care and develop your people. So I usually use the book, The Motive by Patrick Lencioni, where he draws a distinction between two leadership styles, right? There's one which is a reward-based leadership style. So I come into a leadership position because I feel like I'm entitled to leadership because of all the things. It's a reward for all the work that I've done.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
The other leadership style is more about servant-based leadership style, right?
Correct.
So when you're a servant leader, you recognize that you're there to be of service to the teams that you're leading.
Correct.
Right? It's your job to make them successful. When they succeed, you succeed. Versus the reward-centered leadership style is, I am here to be successful and all these people are here to serve me, right? So Steve Jobs, right? If you think about his first innings, if you want to think about at Apple, he was what you'd call Steve Jobs 1.0, which was all about, I'm the leader with 1,000 helpers.
Correct.
These people exist to help me. But when he came around, he realized that he had to operate differently, and he built a fantastic team.
True.
And if you think about, Apple, which is worth $3 trillion or more now, most of the value was created after his passing, because he was able to build a phenomenal team, which has continued to deliver even after he's gone.
Correct.
Right? And it's basically that maturing that needs to happen in leaders, wherein they understand that unless you have really strong relational style and you can deliver results, you can have great impact.
Correct.